What happens when a kind-hearted veteran stops to help a woman on the roadside, only to be attacked by a gang of bikers who think they know who he is? What they didn't know changed everything. Before we begin the story, write in the comments where you are watching us from. The morning started like most of mine do, quiet, still, and with the faint smell of yesterday's coffee drifting from the sink. I'm a man of routine. Name's Thomas, but most folks at the community center just call me Coop. 58 years old, retired veteran, father of 3, and a man who doesn't leave his house without his Sunday boots, shined and laced even on a Monday. That morning, I had a box of fresh donuts from Miss Ella's bakery in one hand and my old Chevy's wheel in the other. I was heading out to volunteer at the food drive near Green Hill Elementary, rain or shine. They don't pay me for it, and I never asked. Some things you do because it's the right damn thing. As I turned onto County Route 12, I spotted a beat-up Chrysler smoking on the side of the road. Hood popped, steam hissing like a tea kettle. A young white woman stood beside it, soaked to the bone, holding her son, maybe 5 years old, who clung to her leg like a shadow. They looked lost. I pulled over without thinking twice. That's just who I am. "Ma'am, you all right?" I asked, stepping out under the gray sky. She hesitated, her eyes darting toward the boy, then back to me. "Radiator's done. No signal. I didn't know what to do." I nodded, popped my trunk, and grabbed a jug of water and a wrench. "Let me take a look. Ain't the first time I've dealt with a steaming engine and a scared driver. Now, I didn't expect applause or a medal, but what I definitely didn't expect was what rolled up behind me 5 minutes later. 3 roaring Harleys, American flags stitched onto leather, thunder in their pipes, and trouble in their posture. Steel dogs. You know the type. Loud, red in the face, and allergic to common decency. They cut their engines behind me and walked up like they owned the asphalt. "Well, would you look at that?" one of them said, looking me up and down like I was standing on their lawn. "I guess he's trying to be the hero," another snorted, jerking his thumb at the woman. I stood up straight, wiping my hands on an old towel. "Just trying to help someone out." "That a crime now?" The third one chuckled, cracking his knuckles like a cartoon villain from the 70s. "Only crime I see is a man like you pretending you belong here." Now, I've been through too much in this life to jump at words, but there's a certain tone, an old familiar drawl soaked in hate and stale beer, that hits you in the chest like a freight train. I saw it in their eyes. This wasn't about cars or traffic. This was about me. "I suggest you move along," I said, voice low. Not a threat, a boundary. One of them stepped closer, too close. "You suggesting we take orders now?" He jabbed a finger into my chest. Before I could say another word, a punch came from the left, fast, ugly, and meant to humiliate. My body slammed against the side of the Chrysler, my ribs lit up with pain like fireworks on the 4th of July. I fell to the ground. My box of donuts burst open beside me, glazed and crushed, just like I was about to be. The woman screamed, the little boy cried, the 3 of them laughed. "You still feeling like a hero?" one of them jeered, kicking mud toward my face. I pulled myself up on one knee. My lip was bleeding, my jaw aching. But I looked that man dead in the eye and said, "You done?" Another blow. This one to the gut. Thing is, I wasn't scared. I was furious. Not because of the pain, because this still happens. Because after all the service, the sacrifice, and the sweat I put into this country, 3 punks with patches on their backs thought they had the right to decide who deserved to help, who deserved to exist. They didn't care that I was helping a woman stranded with her son. They didn't care that I had medals boxed up in my attic from deployments they'll never understand. All they saw was a black man on their road. And still, I didn't fight back. Not because I couldn't, but because I wanted them to make a mistake they'd regret forever. As they walked away, one of them took a selfie with my truck in the background, mocking, loud, like nothing could touch them. I laid back in the gravel, soaked, bruised, and covered in donut glaze, thinking, this isn't just a bad day. This is the same story, different setting. And brother, I was tired of it. What happened next changed everything. You won't want to miss how this turned on its head. I don't know if it was the cracked rib or the crushed pride that hurt more, but I sat on that roadside for a good 30 minutes before I could even think straight. My phone screen was spiderwebbed, my knuckles bruised from catching myself on the gravel, and the last of those donuts had melted into the mud beside me, a sugary, sticky mess, fitting tribute to what my morning had turned into. The woman and her boy were gone. Some kind stranger must have finally stopped and helped them out. I didn't blame her for not waiting. Anyone with a child to protect would have done the same. But her absence left me alone with the aftertaste of humiliation. Finally, red and blue lights cut through the drizzle like a bad joke running late to the punchline. Sheriff's deputy, young, clean-cut, white as a saltine. He stepped out slow, adjusting his belt like he was on parade. Looked at me, then at my truck, then at the donut remains. His expression didn't change. "You the one that called?" he asked. I nodded, trying to steady my breath. "3 men jumped me. Right here." He glanced up and down the road. "Anybody else see it?" Number. But there was a woman here, with a kid. He gave me a tired smirk. "Well, unless she files a statement, there's not much I can do. Got a description?" Steel dogs, black vests. One had a skull tattoo on his neck the size of a fist. That got his attention, for half a second. Then he shrugged. Could have been anyone. This road gets all kinds. All kinds. I stared at him, the weight of those 2 words heavier than my bruised chest. "You gonna take a report?" I asked. He looked down at his clipboard like it offended him. "No visible injuries worth documenting, nothing on camera, and, sir," he leaned in like we were sharing secrets, "you might not want to push this. These fellas, they know people." I couldn't help it. I laughed, a low, bitter laugh that tasted like rust. "So do I said. But he didn't ask who I knew, didn't ask my name, my history, nothing. Just told me to get my truck out of the shoulder and stay safe out there. And just like that, the law rolled away. Now let me tell you something. When a man gives years of his life to serve a country, puts his body on the line, and then gets told to stay safe like he's just some troublemaker in the wrong place, it does something to you. Makes the air feel thicker, makes your heart beat loud in your ears. I drove back into town, every jolt of the suspension reminding me of the punches. I passed Green Hill Elementary, where the food drive I'd been heading to was wrapping up. Laughter, folding chairs, kids running around with juice boxes. A bubble of normalcy I was no longer part of. "Tom? What happened to you?" Linda, the center coordinator, rushed toward me as I parked. Her eyes scanned the bruise on my jaw, the torn shirt, the slow way I moved. I gave her the short version, real short. Her face darkened. "You going to the police?" "Already did," I said. "Didn't even take my name." We locked eyes for a moment. She understood more than I said. Black folks don't need the whole story to know the story. That night, I sat in my kitchen, an ice pack pressed to my ribs, a glass of sweet tea untouched. On the table were old pictures, Me in uniform, my kids as toddlers, my late wife smiling on a beach in '92. I kept asking myself, what changed? Answer was, nothing. This wasn't new, just louder. Somewhere across town, I knew those three were laughing, probably passing the phone around, rewatching the video of me sprawled in the dirt, probably thinking they'd done the world a favor. And they weren't wrong. Someone had recorded it. That much I knew. Because just before the last blow hit, I saw one of them angle a phone and grin like it was a movie. Meanwhile, across the bar at Sharp Nail, their usual hangout, a fourth man sat at a corner booth. Leather vest, weathered face, same patch, different look in his eye. His name was Sean, and he wasn't laughing. He'd seen the video, not just once. He'd replayed it 5 times, each time slower than the last. Not because he enjoyed it, but because something about the man on the ground pulled at him. Something familiar. He remembered a photo on a dusty wall at the vet hall. Sergeant Thomas J. Cooper, Medal of Valor. He remembered the story, too, how this man saved 6 lives overseas during a night raid gone sideways. Sean drained his beer and stepped outside. The night air slapped him awake. He made a call, didn't say much, just, "We have a problem, and we need to fix it." This is the turning point. Everything you've been waiting for comes next. Stick around to see how Thomas puts the whole system on notice. The next morning didn't feel like morning at all. It felt like a leftover piece of the same night, gray, bitter, and too quiet. I sat on my porch, coffee in hand, watching a squirrel argue with a blue jay over breadcrumbs I hadn't meant to drop. My ribs ached. My jaw was stiff. But it wasn't the bruises keeping me awake. It was the silence. The kind of silence you get after injustice walks into your life, puts its muddy boots on your table, and dares you to do something about it. I wasn't planning on making noise. I'd been down this road before. You speak up and suddenly folks remember your past only when it fits their version of you. A veteran, a church deacon, a neighbor who never asks for much. Doesn't matter. One wrong word and suddenly you're angry. You're causing trouble. You're making it racial. So I wasn't going to post a video. I wasn't going to hold a press conference or beg for sympathy. But that didn't mean I was done. Around 10 a.m., a knock hit my door. Firm. No hesitation. I opened it to see a man I hadn't seen in over 20 years. Leather vest, scar over his temple. He looked older, heavier, but his eyes, those hadn't changed. "Sean," I said, more out of recognition than welcome. He gave a slow nod. "You remember." "How could I forget? You were the kid with the busted radio screaming for backup when that convoy got ambushed." He smiled, tight and uneasy. "And you were the guy who pulled me out of the fire. Literally." I stepped aside without a word. Some debts are bigger than years. We sat in silence for a minute. Coffee between us. My dog, Max, sniffing his boots. "I saw what happened," Sean said finally. "They sent it to the whole crew like it was a joke. Thought you'd be just another headline man on the ground, forgotten in 24 hours. I raised an eyebrow. "That their plan?" "Not anymore." Turns out Sean had left that part of the crew years ago. Said he got tired of the noise, the hate, the cheap beer, and cheaper morals. But when he saw me in that video, saw the look in my eyes when I stood up, something clicked. "I didn't know it was you until I replayed it and saw the scar on your forearm. Same one from Afghanistan. You still have it?" I nodded, pulling back my sleeve. That burn mark told more stories than most men could handle. Sean leaned forward. "I made a call. The club's board met last night. Quiet vote. All 3 of them, Ricky, Chad, and Lyle, gone, stripped of colors, banned for life." I didn't clap, didn't cheer. This wasn't a movie, and justice doesn't always come with a trumpet. They laughed at the wrong man, Sean said, voice low, and now they're watching it all fall apart. But that was just the beginning. Later that afternoon, a local reporter from Channel 6 showed up at my door. She didn't ask for permission, just rolled up with a cameraman and a notebook full of half-written questions. Mr. Cooper, we received footage of an assault involving you and members of the Steel Dogs. Would you care to comment? I looked her dead in the eye. I care that it took a video to get you here, I said. But no, I don't want to talk. I want to walk. She blinked. Walk? Through Green Hill. Through the same street I was dragged across. With my neighbors. With people who are tired of being polite while getting pushed into the dirt. And that's exactly what we did. Word spread faster than wildfire in a drought. The march started with 10 people, mostly volunteers from the food bank. By the time we hit Maple Street, it was 100 strong. Teachers, postal workers, teenagers with handwritten signs, and right in front, the woman I'd helped on the roadside, with her son holding a poster that said, "He helped us when no one else did." I didn't speak from a stage. I didn't raise a fist. I just walked. Slow, steady, not for attention, but for memory, because folks forget. They forget the bruises, the names, the moments of silence that follow injustice like a shadow. But not this time. That night, the same police department that ignored my call announced an internal review. The officer who dismissed me? Suspended pending investigation. The department released a statement about renewed commitments to justice and equity. It sounded rehearsed, but hey, progress sometimes talks in circles before it walks straight. As for Ricky, Chad, and Lyle, they disappeared faster than a promise during campaign season, lost their jobs, their club, and from what I heard, a good chunk of respect in a town that used to turn its head and pretend. I didn't dance on their downfall. I didn't have to. What mattered was that the silence broke. That for once, the story didn't end with another black man left bleeding on the side of the road while the world kept driving. Number this time, they picked the wrong man, and the echo of that mistake still ringing.